An Australian family's meal is now the centre of a homicide
foul
investigation.
play after a deadly meal claimed
And
3
a
lives. in
family
rural
lunch turned deadly.
On the morning of July 29, 2023, 5 family members gathered at Erin Peterson's home for what was supposed to be a routine lunch. Erin, 50, lied about having cancer to ensure her estranged husband's parents and aunt would attend. The guests, Dawn and Gail Peterson and Gail's sister Heather Wilkinson, plus Heather's husband Ian, arrived shortly after noon. Simon Peterson, the estranged husband, had also been invited but pulled out the night before, saying he didn't feel comfortable attending. The court later heard that Erin told her guests she had cancer, a falsehood prosecutors say was meant to lure them to the meal. At lunch, each person was served an individual beef Wellington. A key prosecution point emerged from Ian Wilkinson's testimony. Erin allegedly served herself on a different colored plate than the others. The prosecution says Erin Peterson ate off an orange, tan-colored plate, while everyone else ate off gray plates, a commentator noted. The implication was clear. Prosecutors argued that Erin reserved a poison-free meal for herself. The defense countered that the plates were mismatched and all the Wellingtons were identical, a point Erin later made under oath. That night, as the clock struck midnight, tragedy struck. All 4 guests began vomiting and collapsing with severe symptoms. By the next morning, the full scale of the poisoning became clear. Dawn, Gail, and Heather were dead or dying, and Ian Wilkinson was critically ill. Doctors quickly identified the culprit. Death cap mushrooms, Amanita phalloides, had been hidden in the meal. In the following days, Erin Peterson's former in-laws, Dawn and Gail, as well as Gail's sister, Heather, died, and Ian survived after a liver transplant. Erin Peterson, who had also felt unwell that afternoon, had visited a hospital briefly but left against medical advice, only to return later and recover much more quickly than the others. Her vitals remained stable, and she was discharged. Within days, a police investigation was underway. Victoria Police quickly honed in on Erin Peterson. Forensic analysis confirmed death cap mushroom poisoning. Investigators found evidence linking Erin to the fungi. She had purchased a food dehydrator days earlier, later discarded near her home, and her computer and phone logs showed visits to websites and locations known for death cap sightings. In short order, on November 2, 2023, Peterson was arrested and charged with 3 counts of murder and multiple counts of attempted murder. Charges against her husband were dropped before trial. Prosecutors described a narrative of 4 deceptions. They alleged Peterson had invented the cancer diagnosis to ensure her in-laws and relatives attended, poisoned the meals while secretly serving herself a safe portion, feigned illness afterward to allay suspicion, and then covered up her crime by disposing of evidence and lying to investigators. The jury heard Erin told everyone she had cancer. The claim was fabricated according to prosecutors, a strategic lie to get loved ones to the table. Erin served herself on a different plate. Investigators say the beef Wellington pastry contained dehydrated death cap paste hidden inside, mixed into the mushroom duxelles. By contrast, she ate from an orange-brown plate while the others used gray plates. The prosecution argues this shows she kept her meal toxin-free. The defense says the plates were simply mismatched and identical Wellingtons were made for all. Afterward, Peterson claimed she too was sick, but evidence suggested otherwise. She hurried out of the hospital and rapidly improved, unlike the 4 poisoned victims. Forensic testimony showed no sign she had ingested the death caps, indicating her illness was likely a ruse. Once police arrived, Peterson allegedly began to cover her tracks. This included buying and later dumping the dehydrator found at a dump with death cap residue, factory resetting her phones, and providing false statements to health officials and police. Also in evidence was a chilling piece of surveillance. Mobile phone data showed Peterson visited known death cap habitat and related websites, like iNaturalist, shortly before purchasing the dehydrator and preparing the lunch. Prosecutors allege she foraged death caps herself, dehydrated them into a paste, and added them to the meal. Erin Peterson took the stand in her own defense, giving an emotional account. She acknowledged lying about the cancer, but insisted it was for a different reason. She claimed embarrassment over planning weight loss surgery and not wanting to explain personal issues. The defense argued that lying about cancer is not murder. As the defense said, the difference between lying about having cancer and committing murder was stark, and just because somebody did not tell the truth doesn't mean that they committed murder. Peterson's story about the mushrooms evolved over time. She at first told police they came from a grocery store, then an Asian market, and only during the trial admitted they were home-dried mushrooms she had foraged, but insisted she had no idea they were death caps. She claimed some wild mushrooms had accidentally fallen into her supply. The defense also contested the plating theory. They said the plates were mismatched and Ian Wilkinson's testimony was a mistake. They noted that Peterson herself became ill after the lunch. She ate much of a birthday cake that night and purged, possibly expelling the toxin from her stomach. For example, a commentator explained she had eaten the large majority of a cake and then purged that food along with the contents of the beef Wellington, where the death caps were contained. The defense argued this could explain why she recovered quickly. On cross-examination, Peterson emphatically rejected key accusations. When prosecutor Nanette Rogers pointed to computer logs showing multiple visits to a death cap identification website, Erin insisted she might not have been the one clicking. Somebody did, and that somebody could have been me, she said, suggesting a family member might have handled the device. Overall, she portrayed herself as a frazzled mother with health anxieties. Emotional and sometimes overwhelmed, but not a cold-blooded killer.
I'm devastated. I love them. And I can't believe that this has happened, and I'm so sorry that they have lost their lives.
Throughout the 6-week trial, public interest was intense. News outlets ran live blogs, daily podcasts recap proceedings, and one commentator said wall-to-wall coverage had dubbed it the mushroom case. The Victorian Supreme Court sat in Morwell, a regional city, to handle the attention. In private pretrial hearings, disturbing allegations emerged. Erin's estranged husband Simon revealed he had feared for his life. He testified that weeks before the murders he had declined her lunch invitation out of fear, telling the court, "I thought there'd be a risk that she'd poison me if I attended." He said he had stopped eating her cooking entirely amid suspicions that past illnesses on camping trips might have been poisoning attempts. The jury did not hear this testimony. The most dramatic moment came from an August 5, 2023 police interview shown in court. In the video, detectives questioned Erin at length. She was alone without a lawyer in the room. Detectives asked, "We want to discuss the deaths, trying to understand why you're not so ill," reflecting the odd fact that Peterson had been so much less affected. Peterson calmly replied, "I've been very, very helpful with the health department. I do want to know what happened, and I've given as much information as they've asked for." She maintained that she loved her in-laws and was cooperating fully, even as the incriminating evidence was laid out. Both sides agreed the evidence was overwhelming. On July 7, 2025, after days of deliberation, the jury returned a unanimous verdict, guilty on all counts. Erin Peterson was convicted of murdering Dawn and Gail Peterson and Heather Wilkinson, and of the attempted murder of Ian Wilkinson. Judge Christopher Beale described the crimes as horrendous, as sentencing was deferred to hear victims' families. In late August 2025, the court heard powerful victim impact statements. Survivors' voices filled the courtroom. The first came from Pastor Ian Wilkinson, Heather's widower, who had nearly died himself. He stunned the room with mercy and grief. "I make an offer of forgiveness to Erin," he said. "Now I am no longer Erin Peterson's victim, and she has become the victim of my kindness." He forgave her for saving his life, but made clear he still sought justice for the murders. Eyewitnesses later noted he tearfully proclaimed that Erin's actions had been a callous and calculated disregard for my life and the life of those I loved.
This is Dr. Chris Webster calling from Leongatha Hospital, and I have a concern regarding a patient that presented here earlier but has left the building and is potentially exposed to a fatal toxin from mushroom poisoning, and I've tried several times to get hold of her on her mobile phone.
Prosecutors said Erin left.
Several other statements followed. Simon Patterson's parents were remembered warmly. His cousin read a letter. "I miss my parents and aunt more than words can express," the writer said, adding solace in believing they are with God, and I will see them again. The court was told Erin's crimes shattered a family and community. Both the prosecution and defense conceded Erin Peterson deserved life imprisonment, and Justice Beale acknowledged the unanimous recommendation for a life term. In the end, the jury bought the prosecutor's story. Erin Peterson, an articulate mother and former air traffic controller, had used a poisonous fungus to murder 3 relatives and poison a 4th. The mushroom murders gripped Australia, spawning documentaries and intense media coverage. Erin Peterson now awaits her fate behind bars while the community continues to grapple with a crime so shocking in its method and motive. The verdict closed one chapter, but the trial's intricate details, the lost lives and the scientific evidence, will be scrutinized for years to come.